Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zakir Jacob. It's the shocking murder that has sent a chill down every Indian spine. The murder and the absolute savagery of Shraddha Walkar by her boyfriend and partner Aftab Poonawala. Today, Aftab was taken to the crime spot, the very place where he said he scattered Shraddha's body parts. The Delhi police claim that about a dozen body parts have been recovered, many of them in an unrecognizable and completely decomposed state. They have been sent for forensic analysis. The Delhi police are hopeful that it will return positive results. Whether this will stand in a court of law, whether this will be accepted as evidence in a court of law, all of that is anyone's guess as of this stage. But some more shocking revelations coming through as it is believed that Aftab Poonawala carried on with life as usual, dating other women even after killing his girlfriend and storing her body parts in a fridge. There were reportedly other women who came to his flat. How could he carry on like nothing ever happened? What sort of degree of depravity is this of this young man? The biggest question is, how did he get away with it for so long? But first, the story.
Murdering a lover, chopping up the dead body into pieces to dispose of it, storing it for weeks in a fridge, and living a perfectly normal life alongside. Blood-curdling, grisly, hair-raising horror becomes an understatement. The actions of Aftab Poonawala, working with police to reconstruct the crime and the body disposal aftermath in the jungles of Mehrauli in South Delhi, certainly comes across as extending beyond criminality to psychopathic derangement.
This is the garbage dump and this area from where he used to enter this jungle area, and across the road is the area where Aftab used to stay with Shraddha. Every night he used to cross the road, come to this jungle area and then dispose of the body parts that he had chopped, the body that he had chopped into 35 pieces, dispose of the body parts in this jungle. You can see this is a dense area, and therefore it's a challenge for the police and the forensic teams to find out where, in what all areas would the body parts be lying.
Consider this. Shraddha Walkar, strangled in May this year by lover Aftab amid a fallout, is hacked into 35 pieces. Aftab stores Shraddha's dismembered body in a refrigerator specially bought for the purpose and carries parts of it to various places across the city for 18 nights in a row to dispose them off. Police say Aftab told them he was inspired by a crime thriller TV series. All along and for the last 5 months, he lives in the same apartment. He invites female friends over, lights incense sticks to camouflage the stench, and gives nothing away by any changes in demeanor to friends or family. Shraddha's parents have raised the love jihad angle, demanding the death penalty. Questions have been raised against the dating app Aftab used to get in touch with Shraddha and possibly others. But does it go beyond all of this? Is this the psychopath killer who would stop at nothing? The killer who doesn't blink an eyelid out of guilt? Not just police and legal action, is there a psychological illness dimension at work here?
All right, let me now bring in our guests. This is a crime that is beyond anything that words can express. It has shocked the very conscience of this nation. Dr. Nisha Khanna is a psychologist, Mrinalini Deshmukh, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Nirmal Kaul is former IPS officer, and will also be joined by Dr. Mahabali Shetty, forensic expert. Dr. Nisha Khanna, I want to start with you first. Apparently, this was an abusive relationship, a toxic relationship, because even in the past, not just this year, when Shraddha Walkar was so tragically killed, but even back in 2020 and in 2021, her friends have attested that she had texted them. Some of them went to rescue her in 2021. They saw bruises on her neck, in her chest, in her nose. And at that time, too, she had said that she will leave Aftab. She had, in fact, stayed at a friend's house for 2 days. But somehow, the third day, he managed to say something to her and brought her back. Her friends say that Aftab used to emotionally blackmail her. Why would anyone be in such a physically and mentally abusive relationship?
Better. So there are lots of reasons if a person is into a toxic relationship and not even do the efforts to get out of that relationship. The first thing is she started talking about that the relationship was toxic, and that's a good thing there. But he has seen the red flags. Maybe The codependency is one word which I can say, that when you are living with the abusive partner and you don't have the courage to walk out. Second thing is, I will say that emotionally the person is very weak. The person maybe had a history of past, maybe have a violent relationships, maybe had witnessed abusive relationships of parents. It may be one of the reason. May herself had a history of bullying also, maybe, or a history of some molestation, because we don't know about her past. So
Okay.
the friends are now talking about these things, that she was like having those things. Maybe 5 months or 6 months back, nobody talked about this. So you have to understand that when the person is in such sort of relationship, sometimes you can't able to take rejection. This is the one major problem I have seen in the couples. They are not able to say rejection. Okay, I walked out, I left my city, I walked out from my parents, take a stand against this man, how I can go back.
Okay.
And other reason what I have seen in the couple's finances, you can say this couple was financially, because this guy was also in 20s, maybe financially not settled that much. So
Okay.
those, what sort of financial background, and you have big dreams, you are not able to achieve that. There is no boundaries. As in the relationship, they met through a dating app, maybe have a physical intimacy issue, how the relationship started off. And you, for the physical relationship, lots of couples that whenever they had a fight, they end up with the physical intimacy, which is not a good sign, that you don't sit and resolve those issues.
Okay, I want to
Other
ask
thing I would
Mrinalini
say that
Deshmukh as a lawyer, something that is staggering for me is after he did what he did, killed his girlfriend, cut up her body into 30-odd parts and then stored it in a fridge, the police are now saying that Poonawalla allegedly got in touch with other women as well. He went on with life as normal using the same dating app, Bumble, in which he had first come into contact with Shraddha Walkar. This was in 2019. In fact, one of these women, the Delhi police believe, even came to that house, the very same house where Shraddha was killed and her body parts were cut up and stored in a fridge. How can anyone carry on with life like nothing ever happened? And what does it say of these other people who came to that house, that no fingers of suspicion were raised at that time? Their antennas were not up.
So actually, I think this is one of the best crime thrillers that one has ever seen or witnessed, to put it in a little lighter vein. It is terrible, it's horrific, it is shocking beyond words. And as my earlier panelist was also talking about, why did this girl, Shraddha, take it for so long? I think it's something what is known as a Stockholm syndrome, where a victim starts enjoying the captivity under which she lives. And that is the reason why it cannot be love. It cannot be that this girl was so foolish to be able to not see through the psychic behavior or the abnormal behavior of this man. There are fights, there are issues, there are disputes between couples, undoubtedly. But I think this was beyond something. And to answer your question, that how is it that the people who were being entertained by him after chopping her and keeping in the refrigerator? I mean, I have questions asked about Shraddha, or were they completely kept in dark about it and said that, oh, she's traveling on work or she's gone to her parents or something of that sort? We really have no idea about it. We can only know once the police starts investigating these people who he was talking to or whom he was inviting.
Just paint this picture in your head, ma'am. Just 10 seconds. Paint this picture in your head. You are sitting in a room with another man who you met just a few days ago on a dating app. And right next to you is a refrigerator in which there is a dead body. I mean, how macabre is that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there is much more to it than the way what the investigation is now recording. Was it kept in the fridge? Was it kept in a fridge which was kept somewhere which was not in a typical places like a living room or a kitchen, wherever you may otherwise have it? We really don't have the details. We just have a detail that it was kept in the fridge. I think the investigation report that comes out will give us finer details, which probably the police are now not revealing, of course, for right reasons, because they don't want the investigation to be hampered by any
I also want to bring in this aspect, and I'll get Nirmal Kaur to respond to this. So, first of all, the fact that he carries on with life, is dating other women, bringing some of them over as well, even as he has just killed his girlfriend and partner, and her body parts are still inside the fridge in his living room. But more importantly, according to investigators, Poonawalla also logs into Shraddha Walkar's Instagram accounts, He messages her friends privately to give the impression that she's still alive. He also pays her credit card bills so that the credit card companies don't go to her house in Mumbai from where these credit cards have been registered. So explain to us the absolute criminal bent of mind of such a person who not only kills his partner but also has the criminal bent of mind to go to her Instagram account, to message her friends to give the impression that she's alive, and to pay her credit card bills.
This is a very, I mean, it's
mind you?
obviously a
Nirmal
very
Kaur,
smart
yeah.
criminal. It's psychopathic behavior, It's psychopathic behavior on the face of it. But if you see deeply, there's a lot of social approval to this kind of a behavior, in socialization of these boys, because they think that all the non-Muslim girls are kafir girls and they're not even human beings. Even our cattle's better than them. And, they're there just to be captured, to be violated, to be used as, sex machines or something, or to be converted to our religion and to add to our race. This is the kind of socialization. And also in religion, this kind of behavior, if you're converting others or if you're, lessening the kafir kind of population or taking away the kafir thing, that has a lot of approval in which, you are.
Ma'am, may I just intervene for 10 seconds? So far from the police, yes, the father in some interviews has suggested that he suspects that there is a love jihad angle, but the police so far are completely refraining from that, saying this has nothing to do with any attempted forced conversion or change of faith or any of that. This was just a love affair that went sour, and of course, he happens to be an absolute maniac that he did this to the person that he was living with.
In this entire episode, where do you see his love? Where is the love?
No, it is obvious to all of us. It's obvious to all of us. Clearly, it was not obvious to Shraddha Walkar.
Though then the question of a love affair doesn't enter. It was just war for him. Some kind of a conquest and a love jihad. What else is it? To win a girl over and to,
No, which is why I'm saying again that so far the police are suggesting that there is nothing to show some kind of a love jihad angle. That's what the police are saying. That's what I'm placing on record.
I don't know if a relationship comes, obviously in this relationship, if there was any love, it was only from Shraddha's side, who clung on to him despite all the, all things to the contrary.
I want to go to
So
Dr.
if there's no
Shetty.
love, then
Dr.
he's still
Shetty,
entrapped
today
to that
Aftab was taken to this forest area where he disposed of her body parts 6 months ago. Explain to our viewers what is even recoverable from these body parts. Will they be in a position where they can be sent for forensic analysis? Will any material of any value or worth which can be produced in court be recovered from these body parts? What state will they be in 6 months on now?
Yeah, good evening, all my panelists. Good evening to all your viewers. Yeah, what police have told that they have recovered few bone pieces from the site, the forest area.
Yes.
Up to 5 to 10 years, it won't be an issue. Only thing, the first part is they'll get a small pieces of bone, where it's very difficult to identify whether it's a human or animal. So the particular bone will be subject to precipitin test or electrophoresis, where we can make it as come to conclusion that this particular small piece of bone will be a human or not.
Okay.
If it is human, then the second step is that we are supposed to go for DNA analysis, where they'll take a blood from a parents and compare it, and they'll come to conclusion. I had a similar case, 3 or 4 cases I had, out of the 2 have been convicted for almost 10 years imprisonment. So this case will definitely go for conviction, provided they get a single piece of bone. And
how easy or difficult will it be to prove that it is indeed Shraddha Walkar's body remains?
Yeah, it's enough. One small piece of bone is enough to tell that it belongs to Shraddha Walkar's body, based on the DNA analysis.
Okay, fair enough. Let me go back to Dr. Nisha Khanna. Again, you look at some of his Instagram posts. Apparently, he had 28,000 followers on Instagram. It used to be primarily a food blog. People are also resharing his old Facebook posts in which he talks about women's rights, environmentalism, support for LGBTQ rights. It's almost like a schizophrenic personality. The outward personality that he's putting out on social media to his friends, to his family, to the outside world, and what he was really with his girlfriend and live-in partner, it's like almost like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yes, it happens. I think so. When I highlighted on different channels that a person on the same time can love you, and the same aspect of another aspect of your personality completely hate the person. It may be a possibility. Now it is schizophrenia, whether it is a split personality, whether it is psychopathic traits. That guy is suffering from severe psychiatric illness. There is no doubt. The psychopathic, brilliant IQ. He planned everything out to buy the fridge and cut the girl into pieces. It's all there. No empathy, no remorse. All those things are there. The way I was again abusive relationship. She didn't take a stand. It may be because of Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome is that when a person is into love with someone and other person or your partner is abusive, and take the abuse. Recently, movie on I think on Netflix, Darling of Alia Bhatt.
Yeah.
It talks about the Stockholm syndrome, where the woman was in love with the man who was abusive, and they had a love marriage. I'm finding it out. You can correlate this. This girl was in love with the guy who was abusive, and it's like a Stockholm syndrome is not an illness; it is a coping defense mechanism a person may have when the person is into abusive relationship.
No, what I do want to know, Dr. Khanna, is if he indeed had, this kind of split personality or schizophrenic behavior, how come he didn't show any of these traits to either his friends or family? How come none of them picked this up before he went on to do what he went to do to Shraddha Walkar?
Because the person is having brilliance in emotional IQ. Intelligence is very high. I know what to hide, when to hide, what to speak, how to handle. And if the person is like, the communication skills of the person is brilliant. That's why I'm saying it. How much energy or intelligence you require to be a scientist. Similar amount of intelligence you require to be a terrorist or to be a murderer. As I would say that you are sharpening your skills on the negative traits.
Okay.
Negative traits when you are taking this. Communication skills, how I can influence people. As you said, in the age of 20, he has 28,000 followers. How to present self. How to be influenced others. It was easy for him to do so. And that's why you try to talk about that he knows that what are the weak points of other person. Maybe this girl's weak points are. And when you are saying people are not aware about mental health issues, people are not aware about psychiatric illnesses. India is very far away. They are not having any length about when the person is suffering from any mental illness, where there are the red flags, how to identify those signs. It's very important.
Mrinalini Deshmukh, one aspect that needs to be sort of highlighted and questions will be asked is about, checks and balances on some of these new social media sites, whether it's dating apps like Bumble or even, direct messaging on apps like Instagram. How is it that people are dropping their walls of, suspicion or walls of, you don't just, meet someone on the internet once or twice and then, be ready to go to his house. I mean, why were her antennas not up? How can you implicitly trust people who you meet on the internet with just a few hours of interaction?
That's exactly what the main question is. I think what we need to address is about these dating apps also. One of the reasons that we have to understand is what is the data that is being given. If I want to enroll myself on this dating apps, how do they verify whether the data that I am giving, what are the balances what are the checks and balances that they do, and what is the verification they do? Nothing. It is just based on what information I am giving. Yeah. And the other person is equally gullible to fall for that information, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram. Nobody goes and checks what it is, whether it's a fake account or whether it's a genuine account. My suggestion, and taking a clue from certain things, and as horrific as Shraddha's murder, I think there should be check on these dating apps. They should be held liable for making two people come together without doing the proper due verification. Now, you are not just introducing two people. You are at times resulting in such horrific instances because the identity of that person is not truly portrayed on your app.
Clearly, I mean, he has so much EQ, as the psychiatrist said, that he can present a totally different face to the outside world on social media, but what he really was to Shraddha Walkar, that's a completely, like I said, almost Jekyll and Hyde. But I want to bring in Nirmal Kaur as well. You know, it does also raise some questions about the family of Shraddha. Apparently, they had not heard from her since May, but they waited till October when one of her friends, one of her childhood friends, apparently told the brother, and the brother then subsequently informed her father, who then registered a missing persons complaint. This was in October. Between May and October, the family had no contact with Shraddha, and that did not raise their hackles, that did not raise any suspicions?
I think Shraddha had annoyed her family by choosing to walk away and not following their gut feeling about the boy. So that is what must have upset them. And also they were kind of reassured by friends telling them that, oh, they are seeing her messages on Instagram, or they are seeing signs that she is up and around, alive and kicking.
But she's still your daughter. Wouldn't you want to speak to her on the phone every day, find out how she's doing? I mean, just because friends have seen her messages on Instagram doesn't mean that she's okay.
But she had rebelled against her family and joined this boy. She had rebelled against them and defied them to be with him.
Which is fine. All kids rebel. All kids, defy their family. It's at some point for different reasons. But that doesn't mean parents just give up on their children.
No, they had not given up. The kind of pains the parents are taking right now means that they had not given up. They are troubled about their daughter, and they were kind of, they were helpless. What can they do if the child decides an adult daughter?
As they say in this part of the world, ab karne se kya fayda? Beti to mar gayi.
हाँ तो पहले भी करने से क्या फायदा? They tried to warn her. They tried to stop her from this, this vortex. This.
Dr. Khanna wants to come in. Yeah.
I want to say that numerous times when I dealt with family issues on especially relationship issues, if I call up the families and these children have not having a healthy relationships, I think so through the news channels only I got to know they said that she was very close to her chacha. So you have to understand that the family dynamic is already in a question mark. That's one of the reasons maybe that the person had an abusive relationship and not walked it out. That's why I'm saying it. If you get into details, we spend hours and hours with the patients and they share it out. It's very common. Even we able to see the red flags.
I am very clear about two things which seemingly are not explained by anyone. One, why was she putting up with an abusive relationship? And hers is not a lone case. A lot of women tend to put up with abusive relationships. We don't know why. And secondly, the family can't just give up on her just because, she decided to date someone that they did not approve of. And especially for 6 months when they had not heard from her, I don't think any family would just, let it be thinking as though sab theek hai.
I would
say,
that
there are numerous reasons for that. That's why I said it to you. That there are numerous reasons for that children these days, maybe that is the low self-esteem issues, not having a healthy relationship with the parents, maybe have abusive history in the past, maybe have witnessed parents fights, frequent quarrels, their physical abusive relationships. That may be also one of the reasons.
Mrilanli, and then I'll give the final word to Dr. Shetty after that. Mrilanli, yeah.
So, I think we were as horrified of hearing this news as we were about the Sheena Bora. Okay, that also came from a relationship of a mother and a daughter.
Yeah.
Now, there is no explanation why do people behave in such a manner. But I completely agree with you. How can parents, even if the child has rebelled and gone, and they have not heard about her, how can they just disown her?
Yeah.
And right now, if they are moving heaven and earth to do it, sorry, buddies, it's too late in the day. You should have done it when their daughter was not contactable for nearly 4 to 5 months.
Exactly.
That shows either there's a disdain from the part of the parents, or it is, okay, let her suffer, let her do what it is. She will realize her mistake and then she'll come back to us. And then
I also want to put a caveat here that Shraddha's mother had died in 2020, just when COVID was happening. Her mother and father had been separated even prior to that. So the only parent she had alive was the father, who's of course now the one who's running from pillar to post, trying to get justice for his daughter. But surely, I mean, somebody should have been in touch with her. Somebody should have known her whereabouts. Somebody should have known what her mental state of being is. And finally, Dr. Shetty, I'll give you this final word. Because just in terms of being able to prove this case in a court of law, as of now, the cops have nothing. They have a so-called confessional that this boy has made, which is not admissible in a court of law. they have not recovered the murder weapon. Forensic evidence, we don't know how easy or difficult that will be to prove in a court of law. What basis is this story going to hold in a court of law? Tomorrow, if let's say Aftab resigns from his statement, what do the cops have to corroborate this story?
The circumstantial evidence. This case is based only on circumstantial evidence and scientific evidence. The presence of blood in the fridge, by luminol test, they'll be able to detect, at least even if he washes multiple times, they can detect the blood, and presence of that blood in the fridge, and whatever bone parts they are recovered in the forest area. Even a small piece of bone is enough. And to add on, they'll go to the shop where he has bought the knife, where he has bought the fridge. So it's all circumstantial evidence and scientific evidence. Definitely there's a good case, because I myself represented the prosecution witness in 3 cases. Out of the 2 got life imprisonment. The similar cases where they are butchered, they are chopped for more than 20 pieces. But this is horrendous, where he has chopped for 35
all right.
pieces.
Okay, Dr. Shetty, I want to thank you. I'm completely out of time. I'm getting a piece of breaking news which I need to go to now. These are pictures coming in from Bali. This is the opening dinner that all the leaders have had, and these are pictures of Prime Minister Modi shaking hands with Xi Jinping of China. Remember, things have been rather tenuous, the relationship between India and China, since the Galwan clashes of 2020. This is the first sort of interaction that they've had, an informal one over dinner. This is the gala dinner for all the leaders who've come there for the G20 summit. You can see both Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan to his side, and the Prime Minister having a conversation with both of them. Both of them, of course, for the gala dinner, all the heads of state will be dressed, of course, in the bush shirts, in the nice printed flowery bush shirts, which, of course, is a theme for the Bali summit. Let me try and see if we can go across to Abhishek Jha, our MEA reporter who's there in Bali covering this event. Remember, there's been no interaction, formal or informal, between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping of China since 2020 June, since the Galwan clashes. They had, in fact, also been in the same summit in Samarkand just a few months ago at the SCO summit, but there was no interaction between the two gentlemen. This time, again, very informal. This could have lasted just a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, just a handshake and some brief words exchange between the Prime Minister and the President of China. Also, you can see the wife of Xi Jinping, Peng Liyuan, there to his side. The Prime Minister, of course, flanked by an interpreter to his left. Just a very, very brief interaction with Xi Jinping. What was discussed, we don't know. The significance of what was discussed, but the significance of this handshake itself is important, because, like I said, there's been no formal or informal communication, in-person communication between the leaders of both India and China since Galwan happened. And even this is not a formal pull-aside meeting. This is simply pleasantries from the looks of it that were exchanged at the start of this gala dinner. Remember, the heads of the 20 most powerful countries, the 20 biggest economies in the world, are meeting in Bali. This is the 17th G20 summit. India, of course, is going to be the incoming presidency. It's going to hold the incoming presidency of the G20 and will be the host of the G20 summit next year. It'll be interesting to see if we have some details of what was exchanged, what words were exchanged between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi. With that, it's a wrap. On the other side, a special show live from Mehroli, from right outside the house where Aftab and Shraddha Walkar were living, and in the same house where Aftab killed his girlfriend and partner and then chopped up her body and stored it in a fridge. This is a live show of the biggest exclusive with Rhythm Ahmednagar.